Missouri, the show me state. Today, it's the show me the data state. As the states have grappled with the relentless rise of healthcare costs, the Affordable Care Act offered generous financial incentives to the states that expanded Medicaid coverage. 30 states opted to expand, while 21 did not. Missouri did not. Since Missouri has missed out on billions of federal dollars, it begs the question, why not? What is the main factor behind such a decision? Midwestern Missouri abuts 8 other states, of which 4 expanded Medicaid and 4 did not, so regional geography is likely not a factor. Almost all states have some Medicaid and managed care, so that also is likely not a factor. States often do not see Medicaid as a social good, but as a budget item. With wide variations in spending, in 2012 they spent 5 to 26% of their budget on Medicaid, with Missouri at the high end. And it turns out that most states spending a large percentage of their budget on Medicaid did accept Washington's aid. Thus, is the decision a financial one, or is it something else? Perhaps in today's environment, simply political? That is, does Medicaid spending in the billions of dollars influence Medicaid expansion decisions by the states? And if not, what does? To get a better understanding, an analysis was performed using biostatistical techniques as they apply to both financial and political characteristics of the states. Financial data are from the Kaiser Family Foundation. Medicaid spending is traditionally measured by 3 metrics: spending by type of service, by enrollment group, and per enrollee. Since these can be different, all 3 data sets were examined. Total state Medicaid spending by type of service and by enrollment group was listed in the billions of dollars, so new variables were created by dividing those amounts by 1 billion. State political indicators were obtained from Google Maps. Looking at the financial data, standard deviations for total spending are larger than the means, but the spending is certainly not zero in any state. States can't control their population base, but they do control their spending through various and different budget processes, yet mean spending by state for each Medicaid enrollee is virtually the same. This despite the fact that reimbursements from Washington vary greatly, as do the rules the states set for how they choose to spend their Medicaid dollars. Given the substantial differences in state Medicaid programs, this is a remarkable finding. Political data shows the blue states to be rather consistent. Only 2 governors, 1 legislature, and 4 voter groups did not expand Medicaid. The red states, however, appear more split about expansion, and the red-blue differences jump off the table. It was hypothesized that states with a higher level of total spending would be more likely to expand Medicaid than those states with a lower level of Medicaid spending, mainly in order to get needed financial help from Washington. And indeed, states that expanded Medicaid did have a higher mean spending by type of service and by enrollment group. However, independent samples t-tests comparing the mean values of state spending measured on the 2 independent groups of expanding or not expanding Medicaid found that the differences are not significant, and it is noted that all confidence levels cross the 0 point and that the assumptions are not met. Based on these results, we reject our alternative hypothesis in favor of the null and conclude that there is no statistically significant difference in the Medicaid spending by states that expanded Medicaid and those that did not. Next, it was hypothesized that states expanding Medicaid and their control by political party are not independent. The political aspect was examined using chi-squared tests looking at the party of the governor, of legislative control, and of the voting population. Republican and Democratic observed values are almost mirror images. And not only are the observed values noticeably different from the expected, indicating a relationship between the variables, but they are opposite each other for Republican and Democratic states. The standard residuals also appear to be polar opposites, and although only half of them meet the level for statistical significance for their cells, the sum of the differences across all cells is big enough to reach overall significance for the three political categories. That is, the three chi-squared test comparing the state's party of legislative control, that of its governor, and the party winning in 2012 with Medicaid expansion all showed significant results and with moderately strong associations. Based on these findings, we reject the null hypothesis that Medicaid expansion and party dominance in a state are independent and conclude that there is a relationship between the dominant state political party and the decision to expand Medicaid or not in that state. Next, a logistic regression was run for the political findings to see if they were predictive of the outcome. The baseline is the likelihood of a state having expanded Medicaid, or 59%. The chi-squared statistic indicates that the model is significantly better than the baseline in predicting Medicaid expansion, and the R-square value shows that 57% of the variance in Medicaid expansion is explained by the dominant political party in the state. The model did best at predicting not expanding Medicaid, being correct 85.7% of the time. This gives it a sensitivity close to 77% and a specificity near 86%. The model also showed that citizens living in a red state have an almost 70% lower odds of living in a state that expanded Medicaid than citizens living in a blue state. As for predicting probability as states change their political characteristics, using Missouri today as an example, the probability equals 0.396, and indeed Missouri has not expanded Medicaid. As Missouri further considers Medicaid expansion, a look at the states shows that such decisions are in fact not financial, which may explain why Missouri has left billions of dollars on the table. The statistically significant operative association is politics. In that light, it is noted that the Democratic governor has twice recommended Medicaid expansion, but the veto-proof Republican legislature has twice blocked his action.